Penn State jumped out to a 14-0 lead against Boise State. It looked like the Nittany Lions were in cruise control early, and then Boise State punched back.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And as always, thanks so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. My name is Zach Seyko. I am your host of this live reaction here at halftime of the Fiesta Bowl. Penn State leads 17-7. Would have been here sooner, but that first half would just not come to an end. Penn State was up 14-0 at the end of the first quarter, and then Boise State had some answers. They did not go away. It looked like Penn State was going to roll over them, and I like the way that Boise State adjusted. I got to give them a lot of props because Penn State's offense was moving at will. Now, Boise State's offense is still really not doing a whole lot. I think Tom Allen and Penn State's defense, they are the leaders in this game. Ashton Jeanty is being held to 3 yards per carry, and the forced fumbles and everything else. Penn State's defense is doing a lot of the heavy lifting right now, and the offense by proxy is benefiting from it because the defense is doing as well. But I've been left scratching my head at times because the offense really got out of rhythm. They went away from the ground game. Boise State defensively, and that's a test. Part of it's a testament to Boise State. Part of it is, maybe some questionable play calling, definitely some execution. I understand not wanting to be predictable to an extent if you're Andy Kotelnicki as the offensive coordinator, but Boise State really was all over some of those other play calls. The trickery, you can't just run it 1,000 times. You have to get creative, but you have to execute if you're going to do that. So that allowed the momentum to swing back in favor of Boise State to an extent. Now, Penn State is leading 17-7. Ryan Barker making that field goal at the end of the first half there. But you do really think when you look at that first half that Penn State should be up by 2 touchdowns, maybe even 3 touchdowns. I know they didn't convert. They fumbled. Drew Aller had the fumble with Singleton outside the red zone or just at the red zone. And they wouldn't have been there if Ashton Jeanty doesn't fumble. So it's kind of like an eye for an eye situation. But this game does feel like it's in Penn State's control, but Boise State is knocking on the door. Boise State is absolutely knocking on the door. So I will not count the Broncos out here. Penn State was 7 points short of my expectation. I thought this would be a 24-7 game at halftime. But if they come out and strike right away in the second half, just like they did in the first quarter, if they score in a similar fashion to open up the third, then it kind of is a similar setup where Penn State always wants to win that middle 8. The final 4 minutes of the second quarter, and then the first 4 minutes of the third quarter. So everything's setting up nicely for Penn State here. Again, this is a live show, so your comments, your questions, your reactions to the first half are just as valuable here, and we'll get to the comment section in just a moment here. But I think Penn State's defense has played phenomenally. Ashton Jeanty has not been able to get going. Sure, he's had a couple 10-yard gains here and there, but it is really a struggle. Now, I still expect him to do some damage in the second half because when you're well rested, when you're full strength, when your stamina is at 100%, it is easier to contain the ground game, the opposing ground game. What is Abdul Carter's situation? Dealing with what is reported as an arm injury. How serious is it? Is it a muscle? Is it a tendon? Is it a bone? We don't know. He got taped up on the sideline. He looks like he's going to go back in the game, but Penn State's defense is significantly different when Abdul Carter is on the field versus when he is on the sideline. So getting Abdul Carter back is going to be huge. I want to talk about the wide receivers here. I got to get that in there just because it's so recent. Trey Wallace is doing well. Amari Evans is doing well. Tyler Warren's doing well. And then they're just missing those key plays, those key receptions. Now, Boise State's secondary, this is something that I pointed out throughout the week, that Boise State's secondary cannot cover. And look at what they're doing. They are resorting to holding, pass interference, because they cannot cover Trey Wallace, Amari Evans, Tyler Warren effectively. So they got to be physical. And they just got to hope that they're not going to get flagged every time. But Penn State's wide receivers are winning those matchups. Penn State's pass catchers in general. Luke Reynolds is getting involved. The true freshman tight end is getting involved. I will say this. You notice the difference. Do you notice the difference when Drew Aller is able to set his feet, fire, and deliver a throw? It is accurate. It is downright almost perfect. But when he is under duress, Penn State's offensive line has not had a good game in pass protection and run blocking, because Penn State's had those explosive plays. I know one got called back for Katron Allen, but Katron Allen, a few weeks ago, Nicholas Singleton is really distancing himself. He is clearly the number one back. And Katron Allen comes out firing like this against Oregon, to an extent against SMU. Maybe not that super flashy performance, but here we see it today. Katron Allen looks like the Ashton Genty of the game, right? So just when you think that Nicholas Singleton is that much better, then it's like a pendulum between the two. But I want to go back to my point about the offensive line. The offensive line is doing well in run blocking, but they got to figure it out in pass protection. I don't know if it's the stunts. I think part of it is that Boise State's defensive line deserves a lot more credit here. This is a group that had 51 sacks leading up to this game. And I've seen Drew Shelton get pancaked. Sal Warren, he got pushed back into Drew. It was Nick Dawkins, the center, got pushed back into Drew on that final drive. That is unacceptable when you are in pass. And I think that was against a blitzer. That was against, now momentum, of course, but you're going up against a linebacker, or that might have been a safety, and Nick Dawkins really got pushed back into the quarterback in Drew Aller. So the offensive line has to figure it out. If they are getting confused by the stunt plays, sometimes it just seems like they're just getting outmanned. They're getting overpowered. They're getting bull rushed. Boise State may be a group of 5 team, but I got to give credit to that front four, and I got to give credit to the defense for these stunts, these blitzes. Hassanin is wreaking havoc along the line of scrimmage. He is their version of Abdul Carter to an extent. I'm not saying that he's a bona fide first round pick, a top 10 consideration in next year's draft, but he has that star power that is adjacent to Boise State. So what Abdul Carter is for Penn State, that is what Hassanin is for Boise State. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on all of it. This is a good game. For the sake of entertainment purposes, I like that this is a 17-7 game. I'm glad that Boise State did not fold. It looked that way, 14-0, and that was the blueprint for Penn State. Jump out to an early lead, because you still have Boise State on its heels to an extent. Is Boise State in it? Yes. Are they completely out of it like an SMU was at halftime? You knew that SMU was out of that game for the first round of the college football playoff. And you can't say that about Boise State here. They get a stop, they get a drive, and it's 17-14, even if it's 17-10. You still feel like the Broncos can have some underdog magic there to an extent. And that's what we talked about leading. This is almost unfolding the way that I thought it would. Penn State would try to jump out to an early lead, 2-score lead, and they did. And then Boise State punched back, and then some. But Penn State did not get those scores that they needed. It's 17-7. They're in a great spot. They get the football to start the second half. They need to score. 0 points is unacceptable, preferably a touchdown. I will accept 3, but you cannot give Boise State the football. You need to sustain a drive, drain some clock, and go from there and get points out of it, of course. 20-7, 24-7, whatever it needs to be. But that's how you win the middle 8 if you're Penn State. We're going to go to the comments section. We're going to bring you into the conversation as well here on a live edition halftime reaction of the Fiesta Bowl, Penn State versus Boise State. 17-7, the Nittany Lions lead. Tell you more about it on the other side of this break. And today's live episode is brought to you by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Now, that's definitely happened to me. I've had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is the personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or the goals that you want to hit in the new year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. This is a really handy feature. I've used it to cancel services that I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton of money. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for the future, so there's no more stressing about budgeting each and every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That is rocketmoney.com/lockedon, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. And let's welcome all of you into the conversation. Happy New Year's Eve to everybody. It's certainly not as easy of a game as we thought it would be, right? Wow, the score does not reflect the way we are playing crazy first half. To an extent, it does. Penn State is making mistakes that is allowing Boise State to remain this close in the ball game. So I get what you're saying, but I disagree to an extent because Penn State's just not finishing. Boise State, Penn State's its own enemy. It's not, Boise State's not doing all of this. Drop passes, fumble in the red zone. I know Ashton Genty doesn't routinely fumble, but you can't give it right back. The foot to the pedal. Need to get the momentum back. Exactly. If you want to sum it up in a few words or talk about it for 20 to 30 minutes like I am, that sums it up all right there. Get the momentum back because you had all of it and then some. Genty, 13 of 40, the official stats have it at 39, don't mean to split hairs. And then Allen, 10 for 76. Singleton, 5 of 15. If we want to bring that into the equation here, I'm surprised that Singleton is as quiet as he is. Hello, everyone. Hi, Happy New Year. Run the ball with the backs, no trick plays, stop Genty, and we should run away with this game. I wish it was that simple. I really wish it was. And it seems that way after big play and stuff. But Boise State did make adjustments for what it's worth. Boise State's defense corrected some things, but it still feels like the ground game is breaking through. You got to do what Boise State does to opponents. If you're Penn State, use the Boise State game plan. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. Use some play action to set things up. They don't have an answer for Tyler Warren. Honestly, they don't have an answer for Luke Reynolds, Trey Wallace. Amari Evans is having a huge game. I have loved what I have seen from Amari Evans. Wish one of them would have caught those spectacular catches at the end there for a touchdown, but it's a lot of what ifs. They're still up 17-7. I don't want to act like Penn State is not leading in this game. Run the ball. Both our first round defensive players hurt before the end of the season. I'm going to be sick. KJ Winston as well. I imagine that's who you're referring to. Abdul Carter, surefire. We can debate whether, how highly drafted KJ Winston would have been if he played a full season. But yes, this is your 1A and 1B. Abdul Carter, I know where he's going to get drafted, but KJ Winston did offer that kind of value. Wherever he was going to be selected, okay, different debate. But this was your 1A and your 1B of how good. These were your defensive MVPs. And Abdul Carter's not going to be 100%. Fortunately, it's an upper body. If we want to look at the bright side of some things, it's not a leg injury. Knock on wood, right? I don't want to try to speak anything into existence here. But I feel like you can play through if it's a shoulder, if it's an upper body. Like he's being taped. He's not being held out of the game. The intention is. So fortunately there, KJ Winston dealt with the leg injury. Abdul Carter can at least try to play through this and definitely, don't favor that one side of your body. Abdul Carter's value is showing. Absolutely. And because he's so dynamic, do you notice he was lining up everywhere on the formation? He was on the right side, he was on the left side, over the center. They were running a 5-2 front. You can't just do that with anybody. It is the Micah Parsons effect. And what Penn State wanted to do in his final season, where you could just get so creative, and you can't game plan for that if you're an opposing offense. Well, you can. Good luck trying to adjust to it, though. That's what Abdul Carter does. It's not only his playmaking ability, it's the play calling ability that you have, where you can set up your defense in so many different ways, and then it opens up opportunities of success for other players because you're so preoccupied. Whereas Abdul Carter, meet Deni Dennis Sutton. And Deni Dennis Sutton's had a great game as well. Run it north to south and not east to west. That seems to be Boise State's kryptonite. Boise State, Boise State's front half of the defense, it's the secondary that's a liability. When you get this front half of the defense going, Callahan, Hassanin, both in pass rush and run blocking in run defense. Like I said, I know that Katron Allen's broken off the big plays, but Drew hasn't been able to get going. There have been design runs for Drew, and he hasn't gotten anywhere. And Nicholas Singleton has 5 carries for 15 yards. Same yards per carry that Ashton Jeanty has here. So outside of Katron Allen, nobody's having any other rushing success. Maybe it's more about Katron Allen just having a really good game as opposed to anything else we're trying to make out of it. I don't disagree, but I mean, Boise State's defensive line is doing well. This is the best running back in the country. Oh, we're talking about Katron Allen again. No, so that is a point. I had people texting me and saying that Ashton Jeanty's not even that good. Are you kidding me? Maybe Penn State's defense is just that good. Maybe Penn State's defense, the numbers don't lie, is a top 10 group. Because they gave up 37 points on 45 points, on a neutral field to an Oregon team that is a top 5 offense. Did we not forget the rest of the season where they held Ohio State and scored 7 points off of them to 20 points? This is an elite defense. This is why they're here. And honestly, they are winning. If I had to say who's playing better, the defense or the offense, I would say the defense. The defense, look at Ashton Jeanty, is a non-factor right now. So the defense is doing all the heavy lifting to this point. The offense needs to pick up the slack. The offense has gone cold against SMU. And I know it was 38-10, but the offense did not have a great game, and they're still not performing great to this point. They need to capitalize. The defense can only withstand this for so long. You gotta strike. You gotta strike while the iron's hot. Everybody knows that saying, strike while the iron's hot. That is right here because Ashton Jeanty is not going to go away. And eventually the defense will get tired. And if Boise State's within a score or two, they will make it interesting. You gotta run away with this. And the third quarter is huge for Penn State. Why would we abandon the run game when our offensive line was dominating? In run blocking, yes, I agree with that. They're dominating. They're certainly not dominating pass protection. Let me tell you that. Why abandon the run game? To change things up. Boise State also made adjustments. You can't just, they're committed to it. They're committed to the bit. Ashton Jeanty, if there's 7-8 defenders in the box, we're still going to run it. Andy Konelnicki sees that. Drew Aller makes the adjustments, and they make changes. Boise State said, okay, you're not going to run it against us. We're going to put 6-7 guys in the box, and we're going to make you adjust. And then I think they got a little too creative there. But Penn State doesn't just run plays because they feel like it. They see something. Boise State's given them a look, and they made adjustments. It's a chess match, and you can't just run it consistently and so over and over and over and over and over again. You would like to, but you can't just do that. You do need to change things up, and Boise State was ready for it. Short time, we will go back to the run. And eventually they will. Penn State does need to score on this. I would like to see them sustain a 10, 12 play drive, at least get a field goal out of it. Obviously a touchdown is nice. That's what everybody wants, but you got to get points. You got to, if you can take 7-8 minutes off the clock and go down the field and score, that is a win. Getting 8 minutes off of the board is just as much of a win as getting any sort of points on this opening drive to start the second half. Mari Evans seems to have a big bomb like every year. Well, it depends how I read that comment. Even bombing the performance, like he's not doing great, or he is doing great, like the big bomb play. So I'm misinterpreting that. But Amari Evans is that big play threat, and Boise State is susceptible to that. I would like to see him haul in some more passes, him and Trey Wallace. And honestly, Tyler Warren dropped one there in that final drive. It's a battle. Boise State's a second half team. We'll see. And so are we. Yep, both teams are second half teams. Both of them are. Well, I don't want to make any sense of that comment. Stop with the stupid penalties. Yeah, Penn State's been undisciplined. Penn State has been, it's Sal Wormley in particular. Sal Wormley, I two drive killing penalties, man. There was the face mask and then the holding call on Katron Allen's run. Jeanty has 2 fumbles in the game so far. We need to make him give up more. And Ashton, like I said, Penn State's defense has just been able to take away Ashton Jeanty. he has been a non-factor in this game. That's not going to stay that way, especially if Abdul Carter is not 100%. Luke Reynolds is flashing. Yes, he is. Luke Reynolds he's being utilized in this game plan. He is only going to get better. He's going to be a big part of the offense next year, and it's positive. It is refreshing to see him be so involved this early in his career. It's time to rely on the run and play action instead of too much trickery. Penn State needs to put a hat on a hat, run the ball effectively, and then use play action versus a poor Boise State secondary. Simply put, yes, I couldn't agree more. Penn State's offense looked gas at the end of the second quarter. Potentially, they just weren't finishing plays. Maybe it's because of a lack of stamina, but this early in the game, it's hard for me to argue one way or another if they were gassed or how much. They were going pretty up tempo, right? The blueprint was there with the way that they were attacking this game. I think they need to sustain drives more. So they just weren't executing. Amari Evans dropped a touchdown. Trey Wallace dropped a touchdown. Tyler Warren, I know it was in tight coverage, but I think he got a hand on that football right in front of the goal line there. So offensive line's not... It's really not, it's part of it. Yes, Penn State's not finishing plays, but Boise State is making it challenging for them. Boise State made adjustments. I do not want to overlook the Broncos here and just say, oh, Penn State's unlucky or Penn State's just, they are beating themselves up. No, Boise State is putting Penn State in these situations. You have to come through with those plays in the moment because Boise State will make you pay for it. Boise State made Penn State pay for it by dropping that touchdown. They will give up the big play, but if you don't complete the big play, then they're going to get you on the next one. That's really how it's been going to this point. Is Boise State capable of scoring 2 or 3 more touchdowns if Penn State gets to 24 points? Boise State can't score 27 to 28 versus our defense. The way they are playing, can't see it happening. Exactly. If you watched all the shows leading up to this point in the Fiesta Bowl, that's what we were talking about, is that Boise State's just not built to play like this. It needs to be a 1-score game going into the fourth quarter, and if it's not, or even if it's a 2-score game, if Penn State has the ball and they're up by 14, 17 points, yeah, Broncos are done. That's how you beat this Boise State team. I really do wish I could get to everybody. That's going to do it for this live halftime reaction. We're going to have a live post-game show where it's going to be a party. It's going to be our New Year's Eve party here for the Locked On Nittany Lions channel. So come check it out. We're going to have special guests. We're going to have a panel to discuss this game in its entirety and talk about if Penn State wins, right? When Penn State wins, I want to speak it into existence. When Penn State wins and moves on to the Orange Bowl, talk about hypothetical matchups against either of Georgia and Notre Dame. But Penn State still does need to win it, of course. But I like speaking things into existence. Again, happy New Year's Eve to everybody. I wish all of you, your friends and family, very well going into the new year. 2024 has been great. Hopefully Penn State can make it even better with a win here out in Arizona. My name is Zach Seyko. Thank you so much for checking out this live halftime reaction. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not already. Become an everydayer. And I'll talk to you at the end of this game here on Locked On Nittany Lions.